Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Talent Finders would like to welcome multi-talented entrepreneur, international master life coach, keynote speaker, and podcast host Dana Grant. So welcome, Dana.
Well, I am thrilled to be here, Karen. I adore your energy and I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you. Thanks so much. And thanks for joining. So I'd like to congratulate you on all your achievements. So can you share with us how your entrepreneurial journey started?
Oh, wow. It started a little bit rocky. It wasn't meant to be an entrepreneurship journey. I started in the world wanting to be a lawyer and working for which I didn't become one, but I did work for a lobbyist group, the United States Chamber of Commerce, and then the NFIB. And so that was the first section of my life, my 30s and 40s. And then, I got really sick. And I think this is a big part of my story because had I not gotten really sick, I probably wouldn't be an entrepreneur. Because coming
Yeah.
out of that, I met someone and I needed to get healthy, and it was a health coach. And I didn't know what a multi-level marketing company was, and what do they call them? MLMs. And I'm like, I had
Yes.
no clue. But I knew that she was getting healthy, and I led by that. So that's where it started again. I entered into that world, set records with that company, just as I did as a lobbyist, loved it. And then where that spun off was creating and co-founding Cauliflower Foods, which is the first ready-made cauliflower pizza crust company that was made for everyone. It was in, every grocery store. So that was kind of how I led into it. There was no desire to be an entrepreneur. There was only the desire to get well. So I think that sometimes what can spark something in us that we need to do can open the doors if we're paying attention to the signs. And then from that, I'm just going to say, I think menopause played a very, very big part in the deconstruction of me and
Mm,
seeking answers on finding my balance in the world, which led me to personal development, which led me to here. Years
that's
later.
amazing.
Yeah, years later, 15 years later, I'm now, an international life coach, but it all led from this not linear, but very interesting path of wanting to get well.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. So speaking of that, obviously you've just mentioned international master life and business coach. So can you share with us what led you to pursue this business and entrepreneurial path?
Well, I think again, it was the desire to know more, to learn more. I think I came from a lot of dysfunction.
Yeah.
And I had a very deregulated system. And what that looked like in the world, if we're going to talk layman's terms, I was very reactive and my life was really messy and chaotic. And I just wanted it to stop. Really, if I'm thinking about it, in going back, I just needed a new way of doing things. So I started seeking and learning, and I realized that it started with me and I had to be
Yeah.
accountable, which I just wasn't aware of any of that. I was in defensive mode. I was constantly trying to rewrite the stories. And now I can identify, I look back on it and I realized that I was abandoning myself over and over again everywhere. I needed the
Yeah.
world to love me. And if they were happy with me, I was okay. And the minute they weren't okay, I wasn't okay. So the roller coaster ride was wild. And getting
Yeah.
off, getting off that ride was just the peace and the serenity and the abundance that comes from that, because money will follow authority. And if you are not the authority in your life and you are showing up and it's messy, people can feel that vibration. They can feel that energy.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've had a diverse career, and you were co-founder of Cauliflower Foods.
Mhm.
So, having run such a successful business, do you
Mhm.
believe that this has given you a competitive advantage within the coaching and speaking world?
Actually, I think that's a great question. I did not go on to experience the success of Cauliflower Foods. I was in the beginning stages. I had a partnership
Yeah,
and I was in the creative, in the beginning stages of how to develop it, how to market it, how to launch it, how to sell it. But when it went on to its greatest success, I was not part of. Did I visualize it and see it? Absolutely. Did I know it would go all the way? Absolutely. But the partnership broke down prior to that. And I didn't, I got to witness it, and I owned a percentage of the company, but I wasn't part of that huge expansion.
Mm.
So again, what I do believe is part of my success is the healing that took place through the pain and the loss and the grief of having to let go of that and not be part of it. So I think that when you're so invested and your heart and soul is connected to something, and then you're separated from it and you watch it, you still want to claim and be part of that. But I think the healing that took place from that, from the loss of that, and
Yeah.
and to release the ego that was very, very attached to that, was really where, and when I was able to do that, if I was still invested in that and I was still looking at that and saying, what if, and it should be me, da, 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 I could have never built what I did. But my pivot was the healing, the grounding, the new foundation. I mean, I was cut off at the knees. I had to start over completely.
Mm.
I first did from Cauliflower Foods, I went to Cali Soul Coaching, and there was no launch from there. I thought I could launch from what I had already built into, didn't work that way. So I eventually took my name, Dana Grant, and there was when the real magic began. When I started taking ownership and starting and claiming who and where I was. And
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, and
And
so
just
yeah,
in the power of your own name.
yeah, the power of my own name and not utilizing something else. I was the universe, I was forced to claim and start at ground zero again. And I think
Mm.
that when I say ground zero, which means I didn't get any real influence from that. And I think that's important, because I think that we have to know that inside who we are, what we're capable of, what we can create. And it had nothing to do with, and now I realize it had nothing to do with owning the company or releasing the company. It had everything to do with the healing that I chose to do for my grounding on what I was building. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Did that answer your
absolutely.
question? Yeah.
No, 100%. So the coaching world has become very loud and oversaturated in many areas.
Mm.
So what would you say makes you different and separates you from others within your industry? And can you give us any examples?
I think we could look at any field as being oversaturated and inundated. I think that it's when a lot of people heal, they want to be a coach and they get really enthusiastic. But what makes me different is, personally, is I'm very committed. I say you have to stay consistent to your commitment. My commitment
Absolutely.
isn't just to make money and to go out there and create. My commitment was to heal and then pay that forward. So, and being an intuitive, I learned how to embrace and blend and not give answers, but ask really better questions. I think it says, my soul quest is a master question asker, because I think if you ask better questions, you can get answers that unlock the door for people to build. So my success is in the people that I've coached, not so much in me, but it's
Mm.
about looking at their lives and what they've done, where they've started, and what they're able to achieve. And there's magic in that when people, when I can pay that, pay it forward, not only on my own journey, and I'm very transparent and very vulnerable and where I've been, if it's helpful, in
Yes.
our journey.
And does it, or do you feel that it also continues? Because I think healing is a continual process. I don't, I'm sure there's parts that you do fully heal, but do you
Yeah.
find that going through these experiences with the people that you work with also helps your healing process?
I'm not sure. Well, you know what? The healing never ends. When you are
Yeah.
committed to this process, new level, new devil. I mean, every place, every level
Yeah.
you hit, you're dealing and it just doesn't. It's not like we've arrived and we're enlightened. I think that Buddha said he had a moment of enlightenment, but no one ever hits the highest vibration in the universe is enlightenment. I think that we stay in our power and we
Mm.
accept what it is, and never turn a blind eye. I think that denial and not the I have to stay willing to
Yes.
say and look at what may be rubbing up against something. If I'm being reactive or I'm feeling a certain way, I know there's something I need to work on. And so
Mm.
does that end? No, I don't think it ends. I think it has softened the edges and the learning curve is flattened, and I've come an enormous way.
Yes.
So I'm out of reactivity. My modalities and my toolbox is huge. But yeah, do I still get triggered? Oh yeah. Is the healing linear? No. Does it last a lifetime? Yes. If I'm committed to it, and I'm
Yeah.
extraordinarily, like I said before, my commitment is, I'm consistent with this commitment, and my commitment is to pay it forward and to make sure that I do all I can to watch people succeed. And nothing brings me greater joy than that, to watching people heal and
Yes.
claim what it is they want in the world.
Well, that's amazing. So, what would you say then has been your biggest lesson within your career? I mean, you probably had multiple, but is there something that particularly stands out to you?
My biggest lesson in my career would be not to hide, to ask for help. I think
Yeah.
that what we want to do is we want to present this level of success so we can attract success, the law of attraction. And I have a new book coming out, as you know, with 14 universal laws, and I'm big on universal laws. However,
Mm.
we have to meet ourselves where we are. I think as an entrepreneur, nobody wants to be new. No one wants to be the new guy. Everybody's, and I would also say, comparing where we are. You said that the market is saturated on every corner. You've got an intuitive business coach. What makes them different? You know, the flag that says, I'm new and this is where I'm starting and I'm
Mm.
willing to work with you on this level. We will always attract the right people. We will always attract the people where we can shine the light down the tunnel and it can illuminate for them. I think that the willingness to accept and the willingness to know that our ceiling is never going to exceed our worthiness level. So
Mm.
where, I work with an enormous amount of coaches building out and building through their limited belief system. And a limited belief is nothing more than an idea and a system that they've put in place, a story that may not even be theirs, that they've created, and they build everything around that story. And
Yeah.
my job is to deconstruct that and tell them the truth. And as you know, my book is The Truth Within the Lie. And the lie is pretty much 95% of our subconscious creates these stories to protect us. And the truth is, most of it isn't real, isn't true.
Yeah. Yeah,
And yeah.
exactly. It's all stuff we make up in our own heads.
Oh
So,
yeah, we hear a tonality or we see someone say something and we make it personal. Odds are very, very real that it's not about you at all. And
mm.
and so that lens that we see the world is really going to be our success in the world. So my lens is being cleaned continually, and my filter is my life experiences and my healed life experiences at this point. Couldn't pay it
Yeah.
forward if it wasn't. I wouldn't have the success if it wasn't.
Yeah, absolutely. So that leads me to wanting to